Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's a football podcast. It's that time of the week where we get to sit down, talk about football, games gone, games to come, and anything else that's going on in the football. Before we start, please do consider like, share, subscribe, and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. Obviously, the biggest one is share the podcast around. If you've got a football fan in your life, send them this podcast. Hey, they'll love it. Right, let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast, football podcast.
Well, hello there. Welcome on back, ladies and gentlemen. I will apologise straight off the bat as my voice may sound a little bit hoarse or slightly strangled at times tonight, as I have some sort of sore throat that can only be described as being brought on by some form of like man flu / heavy cold / tonsillitis.
Lies. It's because he's been shouting too much at the football. That's all it is.
I wish I had. I think my combined trips to the football this year is not even. I can count the games I've been to on one hand. Still at this point in the season,
you can still shout. You can still shout swears from home, Paul. That's allowed.
Well, very, very true. Very true. For those of you listening to the podcast, you will have noticed the dulcet tones there of one Mr. Stuart Woodmansey. Obviously, he is joining us this week on the podcast, as is Mr. Andrew Cook, ladies and gentlemen. How are you, Andrew?
Better than you sound. Is that just a simple, quick, easy answer?
It is, and I don't know if it's kicking a man whilst he's down.
It seems like we're going through the seasonal transition, and the seasonal transition is apparently, let's make everybody ill before we get to the good weather, just to get the last of those germs.
No, I don't know if this is just my sort of my penance for having a child, and therefore having that child go to the childminder with other children, and therefore starting to get sickness, and then bringing said sickness into the house. I don't know. Obviously, you two have both done that particular dance before, so you'll be able to tell me all about that. So.
I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. I did not spend £72 to not send my son to nursery the other day.
Oh. On the plus side, everybody that's listening to this or watching this can't contract Paul's germs through the podcast. So yeah, you're welcome.
I think what you meant to say, Stu, was on the plus side, it's going up to 80.
Oh God!
I will change the subject sharpish, so this football podcast doesn't turn into a childcare annoyance grievance podcast.
Andy's having his pants pulled down podcast.
So yeah, sadly, still no Mr. Moore, but I can categorically confirm he will be back before the end of the season. And in his absence, I will have the joy of taking you through the first game of last week, which was Nottingham Forest taking on Manchester City. Now, we went into this with a little bit of pessimism. I think we were all thinking that Man City were going to do a bit of a number on Forest, and that seemed to be how it started from the bits that I'd seen. City very much had the lion's share of the possession in the first half. We had all the efforts that were sort of working the keeper. I seem to remember one from Haaland that wasn't really that close. But there was one from, I think it's Nico Dominguez that sort of just flashed past the post. Might have even hit the post in the shooting wrong way. But it did stay 0-0 at half time. Into the second half, there was it became a bit more open. Both teams had a few more chances. But it took until the 83rd minute for the opening goal of the contest to be scored. And lo and behold, it was scored by Nottingham Forest, no less. A nice little raking pass out to the right-hand side from Morgan Gibbs-White found Callum Hudson-Odoi in Akers' space on the right-hand side. He took a touch to control it and then just worked his way to try and get into the box. As he got into the box, he took his shot early to see if he could catch Edison out at his near post, which he did. And he flashed the ball past the Brazilian to make it 1-0 to Forest. He actually had a chance earlier in the second half that Edison had got down to quite snappily to push away to safety. So it was more than Forest deserved, really. They had to weather a little bit of a storm towards the last sort of like 7 to 10 minutes or so, but they did manage to hold on and get a famous 1-0 victory against the 4-time defending and reigning champions. So add that to the list of big-time scouts that Forest have taken this season. They're the only team to win at Anfield, and they've now put another loss on Pep Guardiola's Manchester City team, who are floundering down in 5th position. So yes, 1-0 Nottingham Forest, Callum Hudson-Odoi with a scored to goal. Stuart gone 1-0 Manchester City with a Doku goal, no points. I'd gone for a 3-1 Manchester City win with Wood, 2 for Haaland and 1 for Doku, so no points for me either. Andy was the most optimistic. He'd gone for a 1-1 draw with Wood and De Bruyne with the goal scorers. So sadly, no points across the board, even though it was a positive result for Nottingham Forest. Our second game of the week took us to Bristol, where Bristol City were taking on Hull City. Would it be easy to say that the first 15 minutes of this were explosive, Mr. Woodmansey?
Well, thankfully the game did kick off on time. There was no suspect packages, as Paul may have just alluded to. But Hull did start like a train, just going off, to be honest. Shots from Jones and McLaughlin narrowly missing. But as Paul was alluding to, the game changed massively in the space of 60 seconds, in and around the 13th minute. So Abu Kamara broke down the right-hand side, squared a ball nicely on the edge of the 18-yard box to Pedro, who had his back to goal at the time, and managed to take the ball with his back foot and turn in the same motion to then knock the ball forward slightly to then poke it home to make it 0-1. So on the 13th minute, Hull were winning. Away from home, things are looking good. Bristol, bit of a bogey team, so you know what's coming next. What we didn't know was coming next at the time was less than 1 minute later, the goal scorer, João Pedro, was sent off. He made up a lot of ground to slide in 2-footed on George Tanner. He basically is a big unit, got up some motion, then couldn't stop himself once he'd left the ground 2-footed. He did try and pull out. It did look way worse in real time. But ultimately, if you're ever in a game of football and both of your feet leave the ground when making a tackle, you're giving the referee a decision to make. And unfortunately for us, that decision was off you go, sunshine. Not great. That meant that for the rest of the game, Hull were going to be pretty much under the cosh, and indeed they were. It was all Bristol, pretty much, who eventually equalised, albeit not from their own sort of steam, really, as a very soft penalty was given against Alfie Jones on Armstrong. It's the sort of coming together you'll see between a centre half and a centre forward in every single game, up and down the country, every weekend or Tuesday or Wednesday night of the year, in the sense of the centre half stands his ground, the forward acts like he's been shot, and 99.9% of those times the referee goes, "I've seen what you've done there, no penalty." This time, however, the referee must have had a stroke or a draw on his acca, and he gave the penalty. Mehmeti scored. 1-1. The game stayed that way all the way from the 54th minute. It was pretty much Bristol pressure again from there till the end. Special mention to Ivor Pandor, who probably had his best game in a Hull shirt, mainly because he was the busiest he's been for a very long time. But he did play a bit of a blinder. He did make some good saves along the way. So a very, very hard fought point on the road. But yeah, a point nonetheless. So 1-1 final score.
I think when you're playing the game for longer than an hour, a man light, and you're able to get a point out of it, you can't look at that as anything other than a positive result, to be honest.
I will drop in as well, just at the end of that they did, because of the nature of the way that the red card went, in the sense of he tried to pull out, it looked worse because Charlie Hughes was there as well, and there was a bit of an entanglement. They did appeal it, and in a shock to absolutely nobody, they stuck by their man, so the referee's red card stands, and therefore Joao Pedro will now serve a 3-game suspension.
Not ideal, especially when he's found himself back in the goal scoring trail as of late. Andy was the most optimistic, as tends to be the case, and gone for a 1-0 Hull City win with a Crooks goal. So suddenly no points for Mr. Cook. Stuart gone for a 2-0 Bristol City win with a Twine goal and a Mehmeti goal. So just getting himself a bonus point for the goal scorer there. I'd gone for a 2-2 draw on this one. Sadly, I didn't have either Mehmeti or Joao Pedro as my goal scorers. So I just get the point for the draw. So a point for me, point for Stuart, and yet to get off the mark. Our third game of the week took us to Wales, because apparently that's a thing, even though it's the English Football League. So Swansea City were taking on Middlesbrough. Borough, I think I might have covered this on the podcast last week. Don't have a great record in Swansea. Just one of those grounds where we either get a tonking or just don't turn up. And this sadly turned out to be the latter, as we didn't turn up. Went into the game with one fit centre half, Dale Fry. So Neto Borges, the left back, was filling in as an auxiliary left-sided centre half, with Ryan Giles filling in at the left back slot. Is it just as easy to sort of cop out here and say that you could tell that players were playing out of position? And in the 26th minute, it showed. The ball was lost in the middle of the park, potentially by Borges. Actually, I can't remember who was that lost the ball off the top of my head. But one of the Swansea players got onto the loose ball and headed it back into the path of Ji Sung for Swansea. He obviously got the ball under control, took a few touches to sort of work his way towards the edge of the Borough box. Got towards the D on the edge of the box, and then bent an absolutely fantastic finish around Travers into the back of the net. Keeper didn't really stand a chance. One of those ones where you can just tell as soon as the guy opens his body up that there's only one place where the ball's going, and if the keeper doesn't get to it, it's going to go in the back of the net. But unfortunately, that was the case. So 1-0 to Swansea on the 26th minute. And from what I saw, not a great deal happened in the rest of the game for Borough. I think they made a couple of changes at half time to try and reshuffle it, to see if they could get something out of the game. But all they ended up with was their one fit centre half, Dale Fry, getting an injury. So they now have 0 fit centre halves in the squad. The one that's closest to being fit is a 17-year-old lad that they signed from Swindon, who has played one first-team game all season, and he himself has just come back from an injury. So, possibility that he might have to sort of step in within the next couple of weeks if they've got an even more of a crisis. But we'll come to what they did next in the next game against Queen's Park Rangers straight after this. But yeah, game petered out for a 1-0 Swansea win. Disappointing on the road, yet again from a Borough perspective. Definitely points dropped in the race for the playoffs. Disappointing. What's even more disappointing is that none of us had a 1-0 Swansea win with Ji Sung as the goal scorer. Andy had a 2-0 Borough win, Azazani and Nacho. Stuart had a 1-0 Borough win, Whittaker. I had a 1-1 draw with Vipotnik and Whittaker. So no points across the board. So it stays 2 points, a point apiece to me and Stu. Andy yet to get off the mark. So a fourth game, it is my lot again. It was Middlesbrough versus Queen's Park Rangers. Borough went into this again. No fit centre halves in the squad at all, so they're having to play Johnny Howson out of position at centre back, alongside the aforementioned Neto Borges, who was filling in from left back once again. And to be fair to them both, they did pretty well. They weren't ever really tested that much, but anything that they did get thrown at them, they managed to sort of repel pretty much for the entire game. But it was actually Borough who started the better of the two teams. Hayden Hackney had a chance that was flashed over just before the opening goal went in. The opening goal was scored on the 11th minute by Tommy Conway. I can only describe a thunderous 50-50 challenge out on the left-hand side between Hayden Hackney and Yang. It was won by Hackney, and to be fair to the Queen's Park Rangers player, he didn't moan, he didn't throw himself on the ground as if he'd sort of been cut in half or anything like that. He just got up and got on with the game. So Hackney came out with a 50-50 with the ball, released Finn Azaz down the left-hand side. He drove to the byline and then cut the ball across for the 6-yard box where Conway was there to finish neatly on the 11th minute. After that, Hackney had another chance that the keeper managed to palm away. Looked a decent effort, to be fair, and it was definitely one that was on target, so needed saving. But sadly, no more goals in the first half. We into the second half, and then on the 58th minute, Borough almost put the game to bed by making it 2-0. Anthony Dykesdale with the goal, his first goal at the Riverside. Very nice. And for anyone who'd seen the Leeds Cup game earlier in the season, this goal had a very, very similar flavour to it. The ball was played out to the right hand side for Dykesdale by Aidan Morris. Dykesdale took a touch to try and control. Got slightly fortunate with his next effort, where he basically tried to play the ball inside. He kind of sort of got caught by the defender, and it ricocheted back into his path. So obviously the ball was there to be played. Kept it going. Dragged the ball inside, past two more defenders, and then with his left foot, he managed to bend the ball around the goalkeeper into the far left hand corner. A very, very nice finish, and one that makes you think that he should be scoring a lot more goals if he's capable of pulling that out of his locker. So 2-0 Borough, absolutely no danger, absolutely cruising. So of course we fast forward to the 80th minute where they decide to concede and put themselves under pressure for the last 10 minutes. No, sorry. Before I should have said the second goal, QPR should have equalised on the stroke of half time. Their left back Parl was played in, and he was pretty much unmarked in the box. Johnny Howson was trying to close him down, and he somehow managed to just shank it past the post. A very, very, very questionable miss. Probably the reason why he's playing left back and not left wing or striker. So yes, 80th minute, QPR get one back. Corner from the left hand side. Was headed back in by the back post by Jimmy Dunn. It found its way to Steve Cook, the evergreen Steve Cook, who's somehow about 33, yet looks like he's about 80. Tough paper round for Mr. Cook there. The loose ball was stabbed goalwards by Mr. Cook, and one of those ones where no one really knows where the ball's going. It trickles towards the goal. Keeper can't get to it quickly enough. It trickles in to make it 2-1, and they actually had a chance to equalise right at the death. The keeper had come up from the back for QPR for a long throw-in. The ball was flicked on into the box, and it was actually the keeper himself who got on the end of the knockdown, but his weak header was a bit tame and just gathered by Travers, where he could just fall on it, and that was that. Managed to peter out to a very very necessary and important 2-1 Middlesbrough win to keep those playoff hopes very much alive and leave them only 3 points outside of the top 6. Podcast predictions wise, Stu wasn't very optimistic with this. He went for a 1-1 draw, Callback to score for QPR, but he did have Conway to score for the Borough. Andy had gone for a 3-0 Middlesbrough win, 2 for Azaz and 1 for Bergzorg, so no goal scorer points, but he does get a point for the correct result. I had a 2-1 Middlesbrough win down for this one, so I get 2 points for that. Sadly, no more points as I had Azaz at 4s and Morgan as my 3 goal scorers. So, 2 points for me, point apiece for Stu and Andy. That moves me on to 3, Stu on to 2, Andy to 1 for the 4 games. And we finished the week with Hull City versus Oxford United. Now, obviously, this was a midweek picture, so I can only presume you were flying Woodmansey solo, but obviously with Mr. Walker in tow.
Correct.
Having you have already confirmed that you imbibed a delicious salty beef brick to warm the cockles during the game. But did you have any sort of tuck, as it were?
No, not on the ground. Although I'm starting to see lots more people with the Biscoff chocolate brownie, and I'm starting to feel like that might need to be a thing before it disappears. Does look good. But yeah, the best thing about the first half was indeed the cup of Bovril, because it was way more exciting than anything that happened on the pitch. Written down in my book, my notes for the first half are slowest first half ever. Even checked to see if time went backwards at one point. It was bad. The first half was really boring. Hull had most of the first half possession, but didn't really do anything of note with it. There was a Geldhart chance that was spurned. Oxford had a free kick that was saved quite easily by Panda. But yeah, it was mostly Hull. But I think, as we've come to know now, the technical term of what they were actually doing with it was just fucking about. So yeah, 0-0 at half time. Not anything to think that the game's going to burst into life second half. And it didn't, really. And for all of the first half possession, though, that we did have, of course, the only natural thing that can happen next is we go 1-0 down. Healit was unmarked in the area, volleyed in directly from a corner. Route 1 football from a Route 1 team. But 66 minutes, Oxford took an undeserved, if not unexpected, lead. Less than a minute later, triple substitution was in the offing. So Crooks, Joseph, and Alzate taken off, and Palmer, Slater, and Burstow entered the field of play. Instantly looked more attacking once that had happened, and the point was proven further on 73 minutes when Casey Palmer played a lovely inch-perfect disguised through ball to Geldhart, who wasn't on the edge of the 18-yard box. He was on the edge of the 6-yard box. Keeper came rushing out, and he managed to just dink it slightly over his feet into the bottom right-hand corner to equalise. So 1-1. For all of the complaining that had been going on around, myself included, if I'm honest, because it wasn't much fun. The mood definitely shifted, and the goal really picked the team up. They instantly looked like they were going for it after that point, and some great work from Gustavo Puerta on the left-hand byline. Saw a cheeky near-post finish squirm its way in for the winner. It was on 76 minutes. The only problem is, for those of you that might have predicted Puerta, it went in off the goalkeeper's shin. So it was given as an own goal from the goalkeeper, who, for anybody that's absolutely not a child and will not laugh, the goalkeeper's surname is Cumming. Didn't see that one happening.
Yeah, get out.
So, yeah, again, kept up a little bit of pressure, but no real clear-cut chances for Hull after that. Certainly not until the very end of the game. So just before full-time, Oxford managed to hit the bar with a really speculative long-range effort. Panda was well beaten, to be fair, but it wasn't close to going in because it bounced off the top of the bar and back into play. Battling away, really, trying to keep the points in the bag, and the very last minute of the game, Hull managed to break. Puerta's pretty much clean through, but one of the defenders manages to catch up with him inside the penalty area. The two players came together. The defender stepped across Puerta, who the back of the defender's leg hit Puerta's thigh, and he went down in the penalty area. Penalty, right? No, apparently because the referee was an absolute bellend, he didn't have the balls to give a penalty in the last minute of the game. So decided that Puerta was obviously simulating, so he had to book him, and then really, really, really had a look of panic on his face when he thought, "Oh shit, I booked this guy before. Now I'm going to have to send him off." We say it, or I say it every week. The standard of refereeing is atrocious. There was plenty in that game that Hull got given that they shouldn't have done. There was plenty in that game that Oxford got given that they shouldn't have done, but neither seemed to marry up. And to really bottle a huge decision in the last minute of the game was just unforgivable. Seen it back 4 or 5 times since. Seen it back with commentary, and even like crappy commentators have said, "Oh, that seems a bit harsh, that simulation," because there was definitely contact there. It happened right in front of me, so I had that in real time and the joy of replay, and I haven't yet seen it where I thought, "No, it wasn't a penalty." Penalty every time. However, that's another player that we are missing now for another game, and yeah, but at least we got 3 points on the board because the game did finish 2-1 to Hull, so there is some joy at the end of that.
Indeed, it did, and actually puts Hull above Oxford in the table. Sadly, Mr. Cook had gone for a 1-1 draw on this. His goal scorer pick of João Pedro was never going to come in, as that was the first of his 3-game suspension. And Moore didn't score for Oxford, so sadly no points for Mr. Cook. Stu gone for a 1-0 Hull win with Gelhard to score, so he gets himself 2 points. However, I'd gone for another 2-1 win, so I get myself another 2 points for that. I also had João Pedro as one of my goal scorers, so that was never going to happen. But I also had Gelhard and Gudran for Oxford, so I managed to bag myself a bonus point for the goal scorer there to go along with my 2 for my correct score. So 3 points for me, 2 points for Stu, 0 points for Andy, which means that Andy finishes the week with 1 point from the 5 games, Stu 4 points from the 5 games, but I take the win, as it were, with 6 points from the 5 games in question. So, week 29 brings it just to 1 fixture for each of our teams, as we're about to enter the international break after this weekend. So, league football will take a break. Well, the top 2 leagues will take a break anyway. So, just the 3 games to predict. The first of which is for a guy who's not even here. It's Ipswich Town versus Nottingham Forest. He's not here to give his prediction last. So, as we've done it on a rotating basis, I'll give Andy the joy of being the designated Nottingham Forest surrogate fan for the evening. I've gone for a 2-0 Nottingham Forest win here. I've gone for a goal each, but Gibbs White and Anderson must be due at some point. So I've gone for Anderson to score for Forest. Stu?
Pretty route one for me. I was a bit concerned that they played each other recently in the cup and got a draw out of it, but I think that they'll be on a high after the Man City result, but I don't think they'll go nuts. So I've just gone for a 1-0 Forest win. Route one, you know what's coming. The wood is out.
Indeed it is. Mr. Cook, You get the honours.
Very similar to your prediction. I've got a 2-0 Forest win, and I've mashed yours and Stu's goal scorers together by going with Wood and Gibbs White.
Lovely. Gibbs White will hope that tomorrow morning he's getting the call to be in Thomas Tuchel's first England squad, no less. So that'll be a interesting sporting point, shall we say. The second of our 3 games sees Luton Town taking on my lot, Middlesbrough. My team, I will give my prediction last. So let's go to Andy for Luton Town versus the Borough.
2-0 to the Borough, 0-2 if you want. And I've got a goal for Azaz and Iheanacho.
Carrick did confirm that there's no chance. It's not looking likely that the centre halves will be back fit for this one, so we're going to have to go with the people filling in out of position as it stands again for this one. Stu?
Because of the defensive situation, that unfortunately for you, there was no way I was picking a clean sheet for the Borough. But I have got Luton 1, Middlesbrough 2. Luton seem to be in a good state of disrepair all over the place at the moment. But I've got Adebayo to score for Luton. And I've got Bergzorg and Conway to score for the Borough.
Bergzorg and Conway. Yeah, this is another one of those places where Borough don't seem to do well. They either they've either lost or got draws. I don't think I've seen them win there. So I've gone for a 2-2 draw. They've got their tails with it. They've won 2 of the last 3 as well. So I've gone for a goal apiece for Morris, and of course Isaiah Jones hasn't scored for Luton yet, so he will almost certainly score against his old employers.
Forgot about that.
And then I've gone for Conway and Iheanacho myself. Iheanacho still way short of where he needs to be, but he might come with something. And our final game of the week sees West Bromwich Albion taking on Hull City. I thought it's Mr. Woodmansey's team, so he gets the honours of finishing us off this week. And I've gone for another 2-2 draw. So I've gone for Armstrong and Diangana to score for West Brom, Gelhardt and Crooks to score for Hull. Andy?
So, this might come as some surprise, but I have a 3-0 Hull win.
Ooh.
Is Crooks still available for getting them goals?
Absolutely.
He's probably about the only fit sort of striker that we've got at the moment, apart from Gelhardt.
Well, he's going to be pulling double duty this week because he's going to get 2 of those 3 goals. And Gelhardt.
I'm quite impressed with Gelhardt's finish against Oxford. He took it really well, I thought. So
I'll tell you what, he's starting to come into his own. He was our most dangerous player in the Oxford game, and my boys are completely convinced that's because he actually attended the Louis Coyle Football Academy on Monday night this past week and got stuck in with the lads. So they were like, "There's this young guy, and he's come to play with us, and he's just doing a bit of training," and was like, I recognise that guy. And then I heard Louis call him Joffy, which is what he gets called. So I knew instantly it was him from that point onwards. The boys were mega fussy though that they'd got to play with another Hull City player, so that was quite nice.
very nice. How do you see it going?
Well, I would have liked the international break to have been this coming weekend on the run of results that we've had, because unfortunately, with West Brom in 5th and us still down the bottom, I'm going for a West Brom 1-0 win. I'm going to go for Price to score for West Brom.
Let's hope the price is wrong, bitch, on that one.
Hope so.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of this week's predictions. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to bring to the table? In that case, I will take time to thank these two wonderful gentlemen for joining me to go through the details of their teams and bring you our thoughts and feelings on our previous games, our predictions for the upcoming games. Obviously, a great big thank you to you, the listeners and the viewers, for joining us. If this is your first time viewing or listening to the podcast, obviously, first of all, thank you very much for tuning in. We very much appreciate the listen or the watch. If you enjoyed what you heard, or if you enjoyed what you saw, maybe get a little subscribe to the channel. Give us a thumbs up on the old YouTube feed. Give us a comment. Tell us what you liked. Tell us what you'd like to see more of. Yes, if you like other things other than football, if you like Formula One, there's the Straight to the Apex podcast that's coming out hot and fresh each week, in line with the Formula One season. Enjoy the video this week. I understand it's top draw. We also have a wrestling podcast that comes out monthly. That's down around the premium live events that are on the horizon. We did a Elimination Chamber preview, which means that when we come to the review, we have got one hell of a storyline to talk about. If you know, you know. Keep an eye out for the WrestleMania preview episode that will come in the next couple of weeks. And then, of course, Mr. Cook, he's the head honcho of the CookieCast Podcast Network, and he likes to produce his Darkest Timeline podcast, where he tells you about his week, tells you about his food, or indeed potentially a lack thereof, if he's in that particular sort of grind, as it were. Goes through games, goes through movies, all that kind of jazz. So yes, thank you for listening. Join us again next week, where we'll go through those 3 games. Predictions-wise, not too sure how it'll work, as obviously, like we said, it's the international break. It's the first of the England games under the new manager, Thomas Tuchel. So we might do a prediction set for those, just to sort of give us a little bit of a flavour of what we can expect in the upcoming World Cup in 2026 under Mr. Tuchel. But join us again next week, where we will break all that down for you. Until then, keep an eye out for each other. Take care of yourselves, and we will see you next week. Tatty bye.
So there you go. What do you think to that? Another one done, another one gone. Games gone, games to come. What more could you possibly want from a football podcast? Before you leave us, there's some things you can click. That's right, clicking is important. So, click that like, share the podcast around, subscribe if you haven't already, leave us a review where you can leave reviews, and jump over to the website, thecookiecast.com. There we've got social media links and an email button, and that way you can get in touch with us. That is it for this one. Till next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to these grumpy old men talk about football. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share and subscribe.